listening to conversations in loud spaces? Then it might be time to consider Nano hearing aids. Nanos are FDA-registered OTC hearing aids. Don't be fooled by overpriced hearing aids. Prescription hearing aids could cost $3,000 or more. Nano hearing aids are now offering $100 off through this special TV offer. Call now and get 2 CIC rechargeable hearing aids for only $297. And if you're not happy, return them for a full refund.
Welcome back to Last Call. I am Mike Crispi, and we got a big show for you on this Saturday night on Real America's Voice. President Trump not backing down. As the fake news slanders him, he forges ahead with deporting illegals, kicking out foreign students who hate the country, and putting on much-needed tariffs, even as illegitimate random courts tell him he can't do it. We're going to talk about that. Will Congress codify the Doge cuts? We're going to get into that. And will the intel community actually deliver us answers and bring accountability on the Autopen, January 6th, and the Butler assassination attempt? Who else was involved? Or was it just a lone gunman? We're going to talk about all that and so much more. We got a jam-packed show for you tonight. I'm ready. Producer Frankie's ready. Oh, you better be too. Let's go.
Mike Crispi. Where's Mike? Man, did he make a good speech. Thank you, Mike. You have big plans for the future, and we're with you.
And welcome back to Last Call. I am Mike Crispi, and joining me, as always, is the one and only. He's the most based producer in the game, an Italian-American hero, and you know what? He instills the fear in terrorists everywhere. They said the terrorists were afraid of President Trump. That's what we're going to show you a clip of. But I think they'd be just as afraid of producer Frankie if they truly knew his capabilities. Frankie, how are we doing?
Oh, wow. You know, usually I'm nervous that you're gonna make a joke out of me on the intro. That was beautiful. It must be the NY. All right? It's the Yankees coming, all right? They're scared.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Frankie's got the green. He's got like the military green on. He's ready to go in and bust out those hostages and prisoners of war himself. Look at this guy. We only have the best here on the show. Guys, obviously we got so much going on. It was a jam-packed week. President Trump on every single front, not backing down on promises big and promises small. I want to start with promises small. Something very simple as the fact that our education institution, think about this, until President Trump, nobody would tackle these things. Why is it that our most elite institutions that get billions of dollars of money from the U.S. government, why is it that 3 in 10 of these kids aren't even from America? It's like an obvious thing. Trump said it on the campaign trail, and now he's not backing down. And as they say, you can just do things like say, hey, foreign students, you can't come in anymore. Harvard is for America. Roll it.
Well, look, part of the problem with Harvard is that there are about 31%, almost 31% of foreigners coming to Harvard. We give them billions of dollars, which is ridiculous. We do grants, which were probably... We give them billions of dollars, which is ridiculous. We do grants, which we're probably not going to be doing much grants anymore to Harvard. But they're 31%, but they refuse to tell us who the people are. We want to know who the people. Now, a lot of the foreign students we wouldn't have a problem with. I'm not going to have a problem with foreign students, but it shouldn't be 31%. It's too much because we have Americans that want to go there and to other places, and they can't go there because you have 31% foreign. Now, no foreign government contributes money to Harvard. We do. So why are they doing so many? Number one. Number two, We want a list of those foreign students, and we'll find out whether or not they're okay. Many will be okay, I assume. And I assume with Harvard, many will be bad. And then the other thing is they're very...
Okay. So Trump there saying the obvious stuff. Why would we have kids in the country who don't like the country getting brought in to go to the most liberal institutions where American students no longer go, and then they hate the country? It's an obvious promise made, promise kept, common sense thing that everybody can get on board with. How about not starting a foreign war? That's something that most people can get on board with as well. And people would say that President Trump, oh, his rhetoric is so crazy. The guy just wants peace, even with people who are our allies. Israel, our ally. But we don't want him to start dropping bombs. Again, President Trump, the only guy who isn't afraid to tell everybody, whether they're our enemies or they're our allies, that America is at the helm and peace must prevail. Here's President Trump talking about it.
Back on Iran, did you warn Prime Minister Netanyahu against taking some sort of actions that could disrupt the talks there in a phone call last week?
Well, I'd like to be honest. Yes, I did. Next question, please.
Mr. President, just last on sanctions.
I did, yeah.
If Senate Republicans want to push
It's
forward...
not a warning. I said I don't think it's appropriate.
What exactly did you tell him? Did you
I just said I don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with him, and I said I don't think it's appropriate right now.
Isn't it very interesting how President Trump is the only guy, and I applaud him for this. People will be like, oh, if you say that Israel can't bomb Iran, then you're anti-Semitic. No. Trump at the same tune, he's throwing out people who are anti-Semitic students in the schools. He's rescuing hostages that are Jewish. But then he tells Israel, hey, don't bomb Iran because we're currently in negotiations and we don't want to get brought into a forever war. Frankie, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising. We know what the establishment wants, and that is war, okay? Look at how many U.S. bases are surrounding Iran right now, and me and you, Mike, we've been talking about it since Biden was sleeping in office. They're just inching closer and closer to this conflict exploding. And obviously, we all know, like, this is that one spot, that we haven't went into, and we're not supposed to go into, but here we go, inching. And then we have this guy who wants peace, and they won't have it. I mean, it's unfortunate because we could always look back at the 9/11 times and how, Republicans and Democrats have almost maybe moved positions a little bit. But at the end of the day, the deep state is the deep state, right? I mean, that's all I could say on that. I'm not surprised.
I'm telling you, I look at Trump say this, and I look at him talk like this, and I go, he's the only one who isn't afraid to stand up to all sides and say, hold on a minute. What is going on here? Like, of course, I'm going to rescue good people who are from our allied countries that are being held hostage. Of course, I'm going to put the fear of God in them. But you know what? I'm going to keep our allies in check, too. Here is an amazing account. This is an interview that just aired on CNN. Freed hostage. Can't believe CNN aired this. Freed hostage talking about how they wanted Kamala Harris to win. And when President Trump won, they immediately snapped into shape and started treating this Jewish hostage better. Roll this clip.
Very scared of him. Yeah, they wanted...
Who?
Terrorists.
We're afraid of Trump.
Yeah, they wanted Kamala to be chosen, to be elected.
You talked politics with them?
Yeah. They wanted Kamala to be elected. When Trump became president, the way they treated us changed. For me, personally, this is what I
think
felt.
because they anticipated that a deal would come soon.
Yeah.
And that's when they started giving you more food.
Exactly. More food, treated me better, stopped cursing me, stopped speeding on me.
Isn't that really interesting that the leftists who said, Trump is an international laughingstock on the world stage and he doesn't understand this complex foreign diplomacy. Isn't it amazing that the theory holds true every time that tough talk is a universally understood language? Hey, treat them good, otherwise we blow you off map. Here is picture of your house. Here is the cave in which you dwell in. We will blow it off the map. It's amazing how Trump, one guy, one leader, us, the MAGA movement, created global stability, and that's an amazing account. These Hamas terrorists holding these innocent hostages, even they, in their cave, in the dungeon of where they're keeping these people, said, whoa, we better treat these people right. Isn't it amazing how America first means the world has order, Frankie?
Yeah, and, one of the best parts about that was just as soon as the CNN host sees, what's going on, she's kind of like, oh, you guys were talking politics? It's like, this man was a hostage for a year. Do you think that he's hearing the terrorists talk about their favorite steakhouses around? What they're talking geopolitics. I mean, they are geopolitics. It's just like, come on. This is what a win, though. I mean, can we just celebrate? Beautiful.
They said, you were talking politics with the terrorists? Yeah, you know what? You know what they were all saying in the caves? They were all like, wow, if that Kamala Harris wins, then we're screwed because the first woman president will absolutely just render us totally obsolete because we don't have a woman on the board of Hamas, okay? So we won't have a proper DEI, symmetry with them. That's going to put us in a really tough spot with the virtue signalers. I don't know how we're going to be able to go on. We better put some black people on the board of Hamas to make up for it or something. Like, who do we got that fits a minority criteria? That's gonna get the hostages in a good spot. Come on.
It's unbelievable.
It's amazing. It's unbelievable. So here's the other thing. So these people who are putrid, weak, scrawny, minuscule, who believe what I just said, totally unjust, they kind of believe that as a fact. It's amazing how those people, the fake news, the left, how they will then, days after that interview airs, go into the Oval Office and call President Trump a chicken. That's the word they use, chicken, because he is in a negotiation stage on tariffs and is raising and lowering the tariffs. And therefore, whenever he lowers it, they call him a chicken. But he put it in the first place, and they called him crazy for doing it. Now they call him a chicken if he lowers it. Come on, roll this.
Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country, and because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chicken?
Isn't that pretty amazing? I wouldn't call that a chicken or a taco or whatever these people do. Why do they say taco, Frankie? Why do they call it a taco? I don't even understand.
No, they're just saying.
Is that their latest appeal? Is that their latest appeal to win back the Hispanic base? Look, Trump is a taco, and they use it as a derogatory term. Remember when Jill Biden said, she got up there, woman who ends up running the country, more on that later in the show, that, the bogadas, you guys are unique as the breakfast tacos and the bogadas? So first they use breakfast tacos as like a way to boost up their base. Now they're calling Trump a taco. Frankie, I mean, it's amazing how they say that Trump is weak on this stuff.
Well,
Frankie.
it just seems like they literally the staffers went into ChatGPT and wrote what could stand for something funny with Trump, and it was like taco. Trump always chickens out. It's not. I mean, it's just so brutal. And Trump, credit to him, he's a veteran. They're gonna get him on that quote. That's going to push him over, and they're like, oh, my gosh, he's just erratic. Look how he spoke to this journalist. Roll the tape.
The left, as they say, the left can't meme. Taco, Trump always chickens out. Ooh, you got him there. You know what stands the test of time? Crooked Hillary, okay? Sleepy Joe. You can do as many, of these things you want to put together. Taco, T-A-C-O, oh, wow, you got him. Come on. It is unbelievable. Now, back to this thing about tariffs. So this is all the left actually does have left. Isn't it amazing that Trump is doing things for the country? He's negotiating deals. He's fixing problems. He's getting these trade imbalances right. And the trade imbalance was messed up for the last 2-3 decades. And over the last 2-3 decades, as our country's wealth was plundered and robbed, Nobody said anything about it. And the U.S. International Trade Court, which is supposed to, I guess, regulate U.S. international trade agreements, was never even heard about up until now. You would think a U.S. trade court that literally has the name U.S. in front of it, that sits in New York, that they would, I don't know, at some point before now, pop up and say, hey, why is China, Canada, the EU, why are they ripping us off so much? But no. The first time you ever hear about these people is when they somehow tell Trump that he cannot use the vested constitutional authority that he has to implement and levy these tariffs. Now people say, oh no, Congress has the power of this. No. There is emergency powers in which is at the president's autonomy and decision-making where they can do it. And you have an emergency situation where our country's being hollowed out from the inside out, yeah, you might just be able to do something about it. I would call that an emergency. Listen to how the smug leftists just celebrate the judicial overreach in which has become their theme. It's disgusting. Roll it, Frank.
You have these 3 judges and how rich it is that 2 of them are Republican appointees. One by Donald Trump and one by Ronald Reagan. Yes, they still exist. And they have unanimously, as you noted, struck this down. And basically they've said the president isn't king. Congress has authority over tariffs, even though Congress has delegated some of this. The president has been using a law that doesn't even mention tariffs. And I think when you think about us, our country, we fought a war of independence, Lawrence, to get out of having a king set tariffs against us, like Boston Tea Party world, right? And so here he has come in thinking he can do this when the Constitution says in our...
Lawrence O'Donnell. Very, very fair people there. Remember it was Lawrence O'Donnell, Frankie, that went up there and he said, Stormy Daniels in her elegant black dress, sitting just below her, whatever.
I thought they canceled that. I thought they canceled
that was that. They pulled him off the air after his strange erotic love fest for Stormy Daniels. And now they got him back on talking about the regulatory legitimacy of Trump using emergency powers to impose the tariffs where our country is bleeding out, literally in a state of emergency. And Amy Klobuchar gloats. She smiles. She goes, yes, you know what? Yes. He is not a king. He cannot save our country from financial ruin. He is not a king. So let the bureaucrats in Congress tank us into the ground because he's not a king. It's like, come on.
And she's clearly
drinking. And by the way, clearly drinking. And by the way, when it comes to the cuts in Congress, like the Doge cuts and all that stuff, of course, you could see Democrats and Republicans joining together, locking arms, no, not to save the country, to make sure the deep state is protected. And the question is now, will the big beautiful bill include those Doge cuts along with the way Trump is trying to get money back in from the foreign countries ripping us off? We're going to keep following all that. All right, guys, we're going to take a break for a quick sponsor update right now. We have an amazing sponsor, so important. You got to hear this, guys. And I want to tell you about something they don't want you to know. You don't need big pharma. You don't need the insurance cartel to get medications that you and your family need. Remember during the COVID times, they said you couldn't have ivermectin when it cured everything? Remember that? Well, President Trump just took a big step to lower drug prices with a powerful executive order. But let's face it, DC moves slow. The system is still rigged against the average American like you and me. That's why I support companies like All Family Pharmacy. They are taking action, okay? And they are running the America First summer sale and putting power back into your hands. Guys, they are patriots, and they will get you what you need. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Crispi. Use code Crispi20 for 20% off. Go get those things right now. We're going to take a quick break. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. to the show, everybody. Mike Crispi here. Thanks for sticking with us on this Saturday night on Real America's Voice. You know, there's a lot of talk about what is going on at the FBI and in the intelligence community. President Trump pledged to clean it up. He pledged to get to the bottom of multiple different things that people rightfully want answers on. And one of them has to do with the lingering story and the lingering things that need to be tied up on Butler, Pennsylvania. Very interestingly enough, President Trump brought it back up yesterday in the Oval Office, or the other day, in the Oval Office. Here he was talking about it and some of the unanswered questions. Roll it, Frank.
I want to release the report. A lot of people have asked that question. You had one who had 3 apps, 2 of which were foreign, supposedly, and who has the biggest white shoe law firm in Pennsylvania, even though they don't live in necessarily a white shoe area. What's that all about? His law, the law firm. The other one had 7 or 6 cell phones, and I don't have 6 cell phones. And why would somebody have 6 cell phones? So we're going to be releasing a report on that soon, Peter.
But based on what you're saying right there, the lack of information.
So they're talking about some new details emerging, and who was the lawyers, how did the lawyers get paid for, how many cell phones. And then CBS reported just yesterday that there were new details that emerged on, I guess, new findings we discovered on Thomas Crooks' emails, who he was talking to. Here is that from CBS.
CBS News has uncovered emails that are giving us a better look into Thomas Crooks' future plans. The emails reveal the 20-year-old was busy pursuing a career in engineering, where many professors praised him for his work ethic, progress, and class contributions. At the same time, Crooks was also designing a bomb. He had used an encrypted email account to order more than 2 gallons of nitromethane from an online specialty email account. When his shipment didn't arrive, he used his community college-issued email to inquire about its status. This exchange happened in late January to mid-February, and it's unknown what he planned to do with the materials or if he ever received them.
Pretty bizarre. Nitromethane, not something that, producer Frankie does a lot of online shopping on Amazon. Never purchased any nitromethane, to my knowledge. Here to join us and talk about what is going on as we get to the bottom of these things, my panelists tonight, and we have Mayor J.D. Longo of Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, right near Butler, and our old pal, Kevin Smith from the Loud Majority, is back on with us here. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. And by the way, Kevin Smith is not wearing white shoes. I've never heard that expression before, white shoe. I'm going to start saying that. But JD, I want to go to you first, man. You're there. You're near Butler, Pennsylvania. You were there that day. You were actually just a couple of feet away from where Corey Compatore got shot, and at the stage, you were like right in the middle of it. What do you make of these new things that are coming out? And President Trump has called for a release of the report. We haven't seen all the details yet, but what do you make on the update to this? Do you think that Cash and Bongino are going to get to the bottom of it? I guess they'd be tasked with it. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? And what are your thoughts on the day, sir?
Well, let me just start with saying how happy I am that President Trump and his team, as we knew they would, are taking this very seriously. I can tell you, being from Butler County, participating in the rally that day, and being close to many who were there, everybody, especially the family, of course, are looking for answers to all of these many questions. And folks have asked me time and again, what do you know? And one thing is certain that I've been able to tell them, and that was that I was certain that the Trump administration and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and their team were going to get to the bottom of this to give us answers. And I can see now that that certainly is the case. I mean, we see that the president and Kash and Dan Bongino are answering these questions openly and as honestly as they can to the media, and that they are going to start releasing information here soon. And so I'm certain that they will, as we know them to be trustworthy in telling us exactly what it is that happened there, and give us not peace, but at least a little better understanding of what it is that we dealt with and how we got to that point in our history, and hopefully how we can prevent something like this from happening ever again.
Yeah, it is really strange. I mean, all the details about Crooks specifically. I mean, there's Ryan Routh, which is a whole different thing on assassination attempt number 2. But, crooks and cell phones and where he was traveling, and now these emails about the bomb. Kevin, what are your thoughts on it? What do you think about, the intel community saying they're going to start opening up the investigation and getting into this? I imagine it does take more than 100 days if you're coming in from scratch, because I know Biden probably wasn't looking into it. But what do you make of it, Kevin, and what are your thoughts on, when we can see this and the updates of what we'll probably see? What's your take on it?
Well, that's the thing, is that if they were picking up an ongoing investigation, something that the previous FBI really cared about, they probably could hit the ground running and we would have been far more ahead than we are right now. But as we see, the FBI didn't care. People didn't want to know. People didn't invest the time into the investigation. And I know a lot of people on our side, a lot of people on the right, are incredibly frustrated with Kash Patel and with Dan Bongino, and I can understand their frustration. But it really comes down to whether or not you trust Kash and whether or not you trust Dan. I trust them both. And I think that they're doing the best job that they can at the speed in which, as fast as they possibly can. But the more interesting thing I find is that this is just another example of how, when it happens to the right, when it happens to President Trump, it seems like nobody knows anything, nobody looks into anything, nobody cares. If this were a right-winger on Joe Biden, we would know his blood type, his social security number, his mother's maiden name. We would know every email, all their phone numbers, who they dated in high school. We'd know it almost instantly. But because it happened to the right, obviously we're waiting, more than a year to find out anything about his community college emails that would have been released almost immediately had he been a member of the right.
It really is interesting, JD. And by the way, JD Longo is the Italian conservative JD. We have JD Vance, we have JD Longo. JD, I do want to ask you. So, what do you make of the whole Crooks thing? A young guy, seemed like an outcast. He was in school, then he's making a bomb, but then they talk about his cell phone, and they couldn't crack into it, and then they blocked off the house almost immediately, the road, the street to his house, and people are talking about the breakdown and failure that day. You've talked to me about where Biden was that day. What do you think? I don't want you to have to speculate too much, but what do you make of Crooks? Do you think he was connected to anything broader? And what are some theories, I guess, that you think that, one, have weight, or two, make you just kind of pause and think a second and third time and say, this is what I want them to hone in on to try to get answers on? What are some things that stick out to you, JD?
Sure. I think everyone in the world should be, skeptical of the ways in which somebody, a kid, right, was able to pull this thing off. Look, I'm a United States Marine Corps infantryman. I spent time in Afghanistan. I was an expert marksman. I can tell you that the distress that one would have had to have endured that day. It was 100 degrees. You're on top of a metal building. Surely, your skin would be singeing from the hot July sun, baking you basically in that. You have all of the humidity, what have you. Not just that, right? But then let's talk about how you're even able to get into a position where you're able to take a shot at the former soon-to-be current president of the United States. It leaves a lot of questions to be asked. And so I can understand how a lot of people in the United States and around the world are asking questions and thinking that there may be more to this scenario. And I will say this too, I understand that the Biden-Harris administration sent Jill Biden, I believe, to Pittsburgh that very same day. Now, the question is begged, why would you choose the very same day to send a member of the Biden administration to campaign in Pittsburgh, knowing full well that it was going to take security resources from the United States Secret Service and from other adjacent law enforcement agencies here in Western Pennsylvania away from that rally? The responsible thing for the Biden-Harris administration to have done was have chosen to have done it before or after. Now, am I going to go so far as to say that they were in on it? I don't know that I can say that, but did they help in adding for a more secure or a safe environment for President Trump and his rally goers to enjoy a peaceful day of political activism? No, they certainly did not. Now, you push that on to the fact that you even had people on the ground here, local folks here on the ground in Butler County, Democrats, who were pushing against the county of Butler and other adjacent law enforcement agencies, trying to offer mutual aid. In any other instance, this would just be considered typical mutual aid. But there were Democrats, like the Democrat County Commissioner in Butler County, who were trying trying to insist that the Trump administration, the Trump campaign would sign an agreement, a contract to pay for services rendered, which again was another hurdle that was put in front of the Trump administration. So one thing's for certain here. There are a lot of questions that need to be answered. One, and two, Democrats and Democrat activists in the area and in the Biden-Harris administration did not help to make for a safer environment for President Trump and all of our rally goers to be at.
It is kind of interesting how, they talked how there was limited resources, and the director at the time said, hey, we're short-staffed, and we knew that we were short-staffed. So then why do that? There's so many questions. And Kevin hit on this. He talked about, Bongino and cash. And, there are two camps right now saying, one, it's been over 100 days. Where is the info? Where is the details? Do we have anything on anything? And then there's the people that say, hey, we're going to give them some time and we're going to see what happens and we'll judge them at that time. January 6th is another thing that the FBI and the intel community, you would say if they're on our side, there's a lot to get to the bottom on. Kash Patel talked about it in an interview just last week. Here is that exclusive, him saying he's going to get to the bottom of it. Frankie.
But more importantly, people have had questions about January 6th and whether or not there were FBI sources, not agents, sources on the ground during January 6th. And I told you I would get you the definitive answer to that, and we have. And we are in the process, again, of working with our partners to divulge that information, and it is coming. And I will tell you this. The answer to that question will surprise and shock people because of what past FBI leaders have said about it.
Very interesting. Kevin, what do you make of the January 6th? Do you think we get to the bottom of it? I mean, the pipe bomb, the January 6th theory of the pipe bomber, and who is that individual? And Bongino is saying that they're going to have information on the pipe bomber, have information on people who were there that day. What do you think is going to happen, Kevin? And do you think that Kash and Bongino give us the full scope?
Well, I think they're going to give us everything that they have. Now, a lot of people won't be satisfied with whatever comes out. They could get everything that the FBI has and still not believe it. The one part of that interview that was important is when Bongino makes the distinction between an FBI agent and an FBI source. A rat, the Whitey Bulger or Samuel Bull, those were rats. They didn't work for the FBI. So how many people were sitting there talking to the FBI from any of the organizations that were down there? I'm curious to find that out, just how deep the FBI had infiltrated some of the organizations like the Proud Boys and the 3 Percenters. But they I want people to make that distinction. There may not have been physical agents there or as many as you think, but there may have been a lot of people there talking to the FBI on a closed circuit there. So that's a distinction I think people are going to have to decide between. But I think we get the information. I think they want to be as transparent as possible. All the people out there saying that they've been compromised and, once they got in, I don't believe any of that. I don't think Dan Bongino leaves a $10 million a year podcast empire to keep his mouth shut. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that would do that, or anybody would give up the freedom that he had for this sort of job just to be quiet.
JD, what say you on the January 6th front? Again, the pipe bomber thing specifically, where we have absolutely no information on it. Do you think we get answers on that? And are you with Kevin? Do you trust these guys, or do you think there's a slow walking at play? Again, two schools of thoughts in the conservative base. What say you, JD?
Well, I have to say I do agree with Kevin, and I do want to try to investigate the other side of this. But here's the fact of the matter that a lot of people are forgetting. Consider all of the many months leading up to President Trump taking over and taking office, and his administration getting in, all of his people, his appointees getting in, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. Imagine the resistance movement, right? All of the Biden-Harris holdovers and people who have been there since the Clintons, who are deliberately standing in the way of President Trump and his administration being successful in being transparent to you and I, the American voter and taxpayer. So those of us in the America First and the MAGA movement, I understand that we're hungry for answers. And I really do think I have to agree with Kevin. President Trump and his team are trying to give those to us. But consider the great hurdles. It's like climbing Mount Everest. You have to undo many years of obstruction, many years of hurdles that have been placed there on purpose to keep us from the truth. And so I'm certain that they will get that to us as soon as they possibly can.
I do want to get to this because there is the other side of this. We'll cover all sides. people are saying that, when Bongino and the guys talk about Epstein, that is kind of like a sign that they're probably not going to tell us everything about everything. Here is that clip, and then I'm going to bring in Frankie because I just have to. Roll it, Frankie.
Those two cases obviously are of significant public interest. I'm just telling you what we see in the file. I just want to be crystal clear on this. I am not asking anyone to believe me. I'm telling you what's there and what isn't. Right. There is nothing in the file at this point on the Epstein case, and there's going to be a disclosure on this coming shortly.
Okay.
We are working.
So Bongino and Cash have dug in 3 different ways about the Epstein case. Frankie, we're going to get you in here because I know you want to talk about this. Give us a minute, Frankie. What's your thoughts on what JD and what Kevin are saying here?
You bring in the tinfoil hatter, of course, but it's just I'm monitoring it in the sense of that clip. We cut it short, but he did say, we have this we have new footage. Not all the cameras were gone, just the one in the cell, and we're going through it. We're trying to enhance it, give you that version, also the original version, so you don't think any monkey business. It's like, why are you even saying this? It's like, what? Just release it. Like, no one needs to. CCTV footage is CCTV footage. Why are we going through all these rabbit holes and these little just extra things to just muck it up and just make people think maybe it's not going to happen? It's just like, I just feel like they can go about it better without pissing a lot of people off. That's it. I'll leave it there.
I think that Frankie and Kevin might be on 2 different sides. So Kevin, you're digging in, you defend these guys. You disagree with Frankie on this? You think that, the Epstein story is the Epstein story and that's it, and we should trust people implicitly? What do you think on that, Kevin?
Love you, Frankie. Seconds. But, it's just... I don't know. People who think that like the cameras inside of a New York City prison are like Hollywood quality and that they're always working. For anybody who's ever, heard about New York prisons, they're in pretty bad shape. So having a camera being out doesn't seem like something that's that out of the realm of possibility. But, like I said, they're going to release whatever they have, and I trust that they're going to do that. The problem is I don't think anybody is going to be satisfied with that.
It is fascinating. We have Frankie and then we have Kevin. Kevin says the government bats 1,000. Who bets 1,000 on anything? Frankie goes, what's going on? All right, we got to leave it there. That's my panel. JD Longo, Kevin Smith. We love them both. We'll have them both back. And I want to tell you guys, as Father's Day is coming up, about our brand new sponsor of this program, and that is Patriot Cigar Company. Guys, go to mypatriotcigars.com right now and use promo code Crispi for 25% off this Father's Day season, baby. If you're looking for premium handmade cigars from the best aged tobacco in the world, well, get yourself some Patriot cigars. They are not your grandfather's cigars. Patriot cigars are made with premium Nicaraguan tobacco, hand-rolled, bringing you the flavor profiles that are the best in the business. So, guys, use promo code Crispi right now for 25% off. And they got these amazing products you see on the screen right there, the carrying case, the clippers, all of these things that your father is guaranteed to love this Father's Day, of course, unless he's a liberal. So, guys, again, go to mypatriotcigars.com right now and use that promo code Crispi for 25% off. We appreciate them and appreciate you. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with so much more. The show rolls on. Do not go anywhere. the show, everybody. Mike Crispi here. Thanks for sticking with us on this Saturday night on Real America's Voice. You know, I have been hearing from people that the biggest growing scandal in American history is about to be blown up into smithereens. There's a lot of scandals, obviously, over the last 4 years that happened under the regime of Joe Biden. But perhaps the worst of all was the way in which Joe Biden, as a vegetable, sat there and people authorized his signature on the Autopen on matters in which the sitting president of the United States knew nothing about. If you stop for a minute and think about it, you would say that is the end of the country. Documents getting signed with presidential power not being signed by the president, and the president not even knowing what they are. Here is Ed Martin from the DOJ talking about it. He's saying they're going to look into it, and it could be the biggest scandal of our time. Roll it.
We're going to go like hell against the people that did this to the country. And, this is the biggest scandal I could ever imagine in our lives.
Yeah.
There's never been anything like this at this point. And so I hope it's a lesser scandal than it looks like, but it's headed towards one of the most egregious things we've ever seen. So, yes, people will be held accountable, and yes, they will be held accountable by prosecution.
They got to be held accountable. If there is no accountability for the Autopen, then everything will fly out the window. Because then in any case, you can Autopen, pay for things, get things done, have somebody in an administration in the closing days of chaos, Autopen the leader's signature for a payout, and the whole system will collapse. And then people tell me, oh, well, Mike, then people will dispute the validity of signatures forever. Here's my thing, Frankie, is that the Democrats and the left are so hateful and so disrespectful of the norms of this country that they opened up this insane Pandora's box in which we now find ourselves in. So let's roll this clip here. Scott Jennings talking about the Autopen against the left and their defense of it. Roll the clip.
It's being done out in the open. It's being done in the light of day. We're not doing it at the 11th hour here or as we're on our way up to the Capitol to see the next president being sworn in. And I might add, I don't think there's any doubt who's actually signing these pardons. You know, at the end of Biden's term, we had thousands of people that were pardoned or offered some kind of clemency for drug offenses. I have my doubts about whether Joe Biden signed all of those. And there's obviously, because of the new books that are out, clear reporting here that there was something of a Politburo running the White House at the end of the Biden administration when many of the most controversial pardons were issued. So in this case, Donald Trump, I think, is fully owning all of these decisions. And I agree with Ellie. In the Grimm case, if for no other reason than this paralysis that he suffered and the fact that he paid his debt, I think it's a defensible decision.
And in fact, so the Autopen thing, I think, looms large because, especially in the 11th hour, they say that, Frankie, Hunter Biden's pardons and like Fauci's pardons and the January 6th committee pardons, that some of them don't look like the other. Like the Hunter Biden one was specifically signed a certain way, but then the Fauci and the J6 one was on the Autopen. Frankie, what do you think about the precedent of doing this and going after the Autopen folks?
Yeah, well, I will say, my signature, it's not very, concurrent. It varies. All right, I'll be honest. But other than that, when you see all of these computer generated, the e-signature over and over and over again, it is no question that in the age of AI and all of these things, you would think that people would actually, on both sides would be like, you know what, this is something we really need to button up because who knows, we're getting into this computer age, boom, boom, boom. The computer just says, oh, the president just signed this, boom, boom, boom. We're in war. It's like you would think that everyone would be on the same page with this situation. And of course, the right and the left should be just furious, at least on the Fauci front. You know what I mean? It's not a left or right issue. Like the man needs to be accountable. And this is the first
And
thing.
I can see people if they said, hey, the Fauci thing is something we can rally behind and get together and go, it's pretty obvious that the guy lied to Congress about gain of function research. Like, it's pretty obvious he did that, like he did it on cameras in front of everybody. So there should be no question. So if you cared about like the sanctity of the system, you wouldn't do that. But they don't care about it. So that's what I always say. Democrats will do it, and then Republicans will say, well, we want to maintain the sanctity of the system, to which I say, they've ripped it up into a million pieces. There is no system anymore. Now, here's what we got to figure out, Frank. Here's what we got to figure out. There's multiple reports coming out right now about who actually was in control of the Autopen. Like, who made the call and who got the stuff signed that wanted things to be signed. It's a wild list. Let's do a little around the horn here and see who we think might have been behind the Autopen signatures. First, one of Trump's top advisors, David Sachs, saying that on economics, well, it was Pocahontas that was in control. Roll the clip.
This is the financial system of the future, Jesse, and we have to encourage it. What the Biden administration was doing, and let's face it, it wasn't Biden. Elizabeth Warren controlled the Autopen during that administration. She, for some reason, has this pathological hatred of the crypto community. She wants to drive this community offshore. She doesn't want it happening in the United States. That's the wrong policy for the United States. We want all the innovation happening here. This is a financial system of the future. It's cheaper. It's more efficient.
All right, So David Sachs talking about economics, particularly with cryptocurrencies, but on a more overarching theme here, Elizabeth Warren, Frankie, it seems like she was in charge of the economic matters with the Autopen. Pretty wild, don't you think?
Well, especially when you look back at all the clips of Joe Biden is so on it. He knows he is better than he was 20 years ago. Yeah, that Elizabeth Warren. And it's just, it's not surprising, Mike, right? Because we always make fun of her like, oh, she's just a crying. She just complains and screams and yells. But at the end of the day, she's being propped up by her lobbyist firms. And we've always known this, these financial institutions that are backing her. And honestly, when you look back, you're like, oh, that poor woman, she gets out of a board meeting and she's got to go scream about something she doesn't even believe in. So when you find out that woman is the one that was signing it while also advocating for his health, it all just starts to make a lot of sense. It's unbelievable.
It does make a lot of sense. And then, Frank, you hit on it actually the best when you say the poor woman, because she has to read the script, memorize the script, go out there, and then go we shouldn't be. It's like Elizabeth Warren, you made millions of dollars as a professor at Harvard University, right? Harvard University, and now you're told to rail against the cryptocurrency industry. She doesn't know anything about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, but she's told to read a script and she must have took a lot of money from somebody, because she's the queen of everything against cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And it's clearly she knew nothing about it until someone put a script in her face and said, do this. So then those people who put the script in Elizabeth Warren's face, now Elizabeth Warren goes to the Biden regime and goes, I'm going to sign this on the Autopen. Pretty wild. So by 2 degrees of separation, it's really bad lobbyists signing stuff as the president with the Autopen. Pretty weird.
Wild.
But it gets even weirder. Here is David Hogg, vice chair of the DNC, who is caught on hidden camera by Project Veritas, saying that the Autopen signature operator was Jill Biden's chief of staff. Roll it.
The bigger issue was the inner circle that was around Biden. That's it. And I came straight to you and know. Jill Biden's chief of staff. Had an enormous amount of power.
Joe Biden?
Jill Biden's chief of staff. That was an open secret for them. I would avoid him. He was scary.
What was his name?
Anthony Trump.
I've never seen him.
Exactly.
What do you mean?
He's just he's a shadowy, Wizard of Oz type figure. That's what made him so I knew how he looked.
Okay, all right. So I gotta say this. It's amazing to me how the operator was Jill Biden's chief of staff, not Joe Biden's, but Dr. Jill Biden's chief of staff. Remember when she was running those cabinet meetings? Tells you everything you need to know. Let's do a break from our sponsor, Frank. Let's do OFP Farms. Guys, Father's Day is coming up, and I want to tell you about a great sale that our friends on over at OFP Farms are having right now. Use your promo code LASTCALL for 20% off. Guys, they got soaps, lotions, lip balms, beard products, you name it, all made from goat milk tallow, all natural ingredients, and these beautiful alpha male handcrafted gift box your father is guaranteed to love. So guys, go to OFPfarms.com and use promo code LASTCALL today. It makes a great gift for Father's Day. You see it right there. Look good, feel good, keep your dad healthy. OFP Farms, promo code LASTCALL. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. So much more. Do not go anywhere. And welcome back to the show, everybody. Mike Crispi here. Thanks for sticking with us on this Saturday night. And you know, it's really fascinating. As we wrap the show, I have a question for you guys, okay? I have a question. Who is above the Department of Education? It's not a trick question. Is it A, the President of the United States, who appoints a member of their cabinet, who is the Secretary of the Department of Ed? Or is it B, local activists, foreign-born activist left-wing judge? I don't think this is a controversial question, but if you ask the left, oh, well, they believe it is a controversy. Here it is. An activist judge has stepped in to halt President Trump's actions to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. The judge is also ordering the rehiring of employees that have been let go. Of course, the judge was appointed by Joe Biden or whoever operated Joe Biden's Autopen. It's amazing to me now how anything the president does is met with an activist judge saying you can't do it. Even if it's 1,000% within the scope of the president's authority, the judge will come in and say you can't do it. People are saying, why would the judge just do that? Isn't it obvious that they're wrong? But here's the thing, guys. It doesn't matter with the leftists when it comes to right and wrong. All they care about is a word that is beginning with an O, and it's called obstruct. That's all they care about. Obstruct. Now it has to go to an appeals court, and now it'll sit in appeals court for a couple of months, and then by the time Trump wants to undo it and do it, the term will be halfway over, and then they'll try to buy off the members of Congress. That's what these people are doing. They could give a damn about the way the country is supposed to be, even in the most basic facets. President appoints the Secretary of the Department of Ed. You would think he would have the authority to tell that person, cut the staff, cut the budget, we're going to cut this thing out. Of course the activist judge says no. And of course the activist judge, just like the judge that was involved in the Trump cases 2 years ago, of course the activist judge isn't from America. And of course their family are leftist whack jobs. There's always a theme here. Here's that judge's wife. Laura Loomer brought us clips from her TikTok or Instagram. Roll it.
Sue John here with another topic in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. Today, let's focus on the word inclusion. The word inclusion literally means to include people. In other words, bring people into the fold. So the work of inclusion is to minimize barriers and to make people feel as comfortable as possible so they could share their honest thoughts, their ideas, their experiences, their perspectives, and their best selves.
So even if this judge wanted to be objective, okay, one, he's a liberal, so therefore he's a cuck. And three, you think that his wife would allow him to make a ruling, okay, on the Department of Education that she didn't like? So he's a weak liberal man. And the wife clearly is strong. I mean, she's like, she is a DEI warrior, as you can see. You think she's letting that case go objectively? I think we have a new problem in our country, and that is activist left-wing judges getting run by their psychopathic wives. You think, oh, he's objective, he's beyond reproach, he's a judge. Okay, sure. Yes, Frankie, last word here.
Yeah, just like you watch that, right? And you're like, why are you talking to me like I'm a child, right? Like you sound like a kindergartner.
That's
like we know these
do.
terms, but there's a thing. They're actually talking to the youth, and they're hoping that your children are going to see this and think, oh, look at this person of power explaining how things work. And that's the scariest part. They're talking to your children.
And that is why they want to maintain the Department of Education, because they want your kids and they want to be learning this destabilizing BS content. Boom, there you go. All right, guys, I want to tell you about one more sponsor before we go, and those are our friends over at the Smart Health Plan. I have a question. Are you fed up with health insurance premiums that are draining your wallet? Well, I want to introduce to you the Smart Health Plan. Say goodbye to big insurance and government control, and say hello to huge monthly premium savings, a nationwide PPO network with unlimited doctor visits, low copays, and unlimited free access to telemedicine. A comprehensive catastrophic coverage plan designed to protect you and your family from the financial consequences of a serious illness or injury. If you are facing COBRA, if you're self-employed, if you need a better deal and cannot get coverage anywhere else, or if you have a small business, the Smart Health Plan is the ultimate solution for your team. If you want more info, go call my friend Barry right now. Give my friend Barry a call at 833-752-6742. Or go to the smarthealthplan.com right there on the screen and get in touch with them, and they will help you on your way to financial solvency. Guys, 6 in 10 bankruptcies in this country are from medical bills and debt. Don't let it be you. Go to the smarthealthplan.com right now and get covered and protected. All right, what a show, what a show. All right, guys, I appreciate everybody tuning in. It's been an amazing episode. You guys know what we do in this program. We keep it America first, bold, unafraid. We're tuned up. We're in the golden age. We're having a good time. And I always say it, we're just getting started. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you back live next Saturday.